Live.
Anything. There it is. That we are live. It worked. I
It's
hit the big
live.
red button. It worked.
It
It's
worked.
live. We're
Yes.
professional here. That's how good we are. Hi, everybody. I'm Bart Robley, and I am here with three of the greatest drummers on the face of the planet. My buddy in Tucson, Chip Ritter. Down in San Diego, Rick Stojak, and right below me, and apparently he's right below me in Ontario. I don't know where he is. He's down there somewhere. Anyway, up in Hollywood, one of the greatest drummers in LA, Jimmy Keegan. Jimmy, how are you, my friend?
Keegan. I'm good, fellas.
Awesome.
Good to see you.
It is great to have you on deck, man. This is absolutely fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me here. It's always nice to be had.
Yes,
you guys look
it
like
is.
twins.
Who, me and Jimmy?
Yep.
We stand next to each other, and people think, "Wow, they're twins all the time." It happened the other day at Sabian.
It's the same, only smaller.
Oh my gosh, man, it is so great to have you on. You know, one of the things that I've always appreciated about you is not only an amazing drummer. I talked to you about this at NAMM many times. You have a phenomenal voice. You're a great singer. And
thank you.
yeah, I heard Dean Casanova one time in Modern Drummer. I read an interview with him, and he said a singing drummer is worth their weight in gold. And so that is, you know, I think that's really cool. And the fact that you do sing and you sing so well, you know, my hat's off to you. So I want to start there. That's where I want to start. Is we'll talk about drumming, obviously, but I want to talk about your singing. How did you start singing, and how did you develop that tool?
I sang as a really little kid, to Elton John records, when I was 4 and 5, 6 years old. Just not thinking I want to be a singer. I just sang along, and my family kind of took notice of it. And so we started doing little, talent shows and things like that. But the drumming kicked in at like 8 or 9. I got a kid at 10. Whenever I played along to, whatever my favorite record or tape was, for some reason I would always sing along to it at the same time. I wasn't consciously thinking I should do this. I just did, which is funny because I did this video thing here a few months ago that Thomas Lang pulled me on, where we were doing an interview with Terry Bozzio, who was like one of my drum gods.
Right.
And Thomas had remembered that I was talking to him about the fact that I used to play and sing along to these missing persons records. So it was interesting because that was part of the reason he brought me on is because Terry is also a singing drummer, which no one really seems to notice much, but he's the primary backup singer in Missing Persons. He sang throughout all that Frank Zappa stuff.
Yeah.
He's done some solo stuff. So Thomas wanted to get that insight as well to kind of ask any of those questions along that line, because it's a different concept. We didn't really get to it all that much in the interview, but that was his thinking is, oh, you're a singing drummer. There's only a few of those guys that I know. And so, I just used to sing to the Missing Persons records and, Led Zeppelin, I'd sing along. I didn't think about it until I started getting into bands and we needed singing, we need a backup singer. Oh, okay. Well, I can sing backup stuff. And I started getting into bands when I was 14. So my voice was still high. As I grew up, it just never really dropped. I've always been a tenor of some kind and just kept singing. My 20s, I started getting people saying, you should pick up a song here in a cover bands that I was doing. Sing this song, try singing this. You'd sound good on this. Oh, all right. And it just continued to develop past that, So
Isn't it easier for bass players and guitarists to sing because they could kind of hit a note and then have an interval, have a bass root of where they should be?
I mean, I don't think about it that way. I think the challenge for any musician, besides just standard pitch and knowing where you are within a song harmonically, is the coordination of it. I know a lot of guitar players and bass players have issues with singing and playing because they often the vocal contradicts what they're playing.
Yeah.
Okay.
but that's something, again, I've just never thought about. I never thought about coordination. The challenge for me singing wise is breathing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because as a drummer, our body will say, you need to breathe now, or you need to be breathing, we're doing a particularly, energetic spot or something like that. You need to be breathing the same way. Like if you're working out, you're supposed to keep constant flow of oxygen going. If you hold your breath, maybe not be so good for you. Whereas singing is all about holding your breath, then, quick breath, hold your breath. And if the drumming part of me says, breathe now, and I'm in the middle of a note, it's a problem.
Right.
So you have to learn and get used to the idea of, okay, I have to breathe here, make sure you take a good one for this, because both vocally and physically you're going to have to get through these 4 bars.
Right.
So that's been the hardest thing for me in terms of singing is just keeping track of breathing and not overdoing it and not passing out.
And
There you go.
Are you a headset mic guy, Jimmy, or
No? Oh God, no. I did in my youth because everyone said, "Oh, you have to do that. Oh, you have to do that." Headset mics. First of all, I don't know of a single company that makes a headset mic yet that's really all that good.
Yeah.
And I don't say that to criticize mic companies. It's just the nature of what those microphones are and what they do. They're usually all condensers.
Mhm.
They're very small.
Right.
Yeah.
If it was just that microphone by itself, you could get off of it and gain it up at about here, and it would probably sound fine. Like a lapel mic or something like that.
Yeah.
But the nature of having to get it so close to you so it doesn't become a drum overhead.
Yes.
It means you lose dynamic range. And I mean, even as a singer, I can't back off the mic and do any kind of mic technique. It's always right on my mouth.
Right.
Right.
And I have a particularly piercing and loud voice. So it just ends up sounding funny. And yeah, very often they just end up being drum overheads. Any microphone is going to be a drum overhead.
Right.
It's gonna pick up the drums any way you slice it. So I've always tried to use microphones that were generally considered drum mics, like tom mics.
Mm.
Like right now, I use an ATM 230, which is a great tom mic
For your vocals.
For my vocal, but it's because the pattern is a lot tighter.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more rejection, and it's not going to be. You're never going to have like the most perfect microphone for voice, because as soon as you get into microphones that sound better for voice, they're going to have a bigger pattern and they're going to pick up more drums. Right. So, you talk to the front of house engineer and go, what do you want? Do you want a microphone that you have to EQ a little, or do you want a microphone that just gets dominated by cymbals?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I saw that Dean is back with Journey, and we know what a great singer he is. And apparently they wanted him at one point to be the lead singer, is the story I heard. And his drumming was so good that they were like, no, we need you on drums.
I don't know why they just don't. I mean, the guy they have singing in Journey is fantastic.
Yeah, he is.
Ornell, he's a remarkable singer. But they're paying 2 guys.
Right.
Yeah.
To be blunt. Dean could just do the job. And I think it's just because people are of this idea that, the drummer has to be in the back and, we can't front a band. And I mean, granted, Ornell adds something similar to what Steve Perry did in that he's a great performer and he's energetic and he's all over the stage. And he works the audience really well. So he brings that element, and that's great. So, I mean, again, what do you want?
Right.
Yeah. And I've noticed that Dean is playing electronic drums live now too. So maybe that has to do with vocal.
I haven't seen that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I know it is. It is very interesting. Yeah.
I saw that. I love listening to him sing Mother, Father. The first time I really heard him sing, I knew he sang backups, but he sang Mother, Father and caught all the drum phrases. I was like, holy crap, man, that's amazing. And that's actually the first time I saw you sing, Jimmy, was a video at Ultimate Jam Night, and I forget the Queen song. I talked to you about it once. And
it's Queen?
Yeah, you were singing a Queen song, I thought.
Probably. I think I did Killer Queen or something like that.
Maybe, but you just nailed it.
You talk about okay, the song's nuts. I mean, that's one of the greatest songs ever.
Right.
For dozens of reasons. But that's a perfect breathing example. Is that song has a section it's obviously when they recorded it, they did it in pieces and did multi-tracks and overdub, because there's a section of that song in the second verse where Freddie starts singing and there's no break whatsoever in the vocal line. It keeps going from the whole last line of the chorus into the B section the verse into the B section into the chorus. There's no vocal break. It just keeps talking. There's no breathing point.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute.
Hold
on. They overdubbed this, because as you try to sing it, you're like, wait a minute. I gotta perfume came naturally from Paris. It's just, but yeah, oh God, Freddie and all that.
Can you imagine comping that on 2-inch 24 track? I mean, that must have just been like a producer's nightmare.
They had to do, that's what I mean. They had to do multi-track.
Yeah, totally.
To punching in everything, because there's no break in it. It goes right into, digitally today easily, but yeah.
Oh,
and just
back then,
Freddie in general is nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay, so on to the drumming. You said, forgive me if I say this or didn't hear you right. You said you started playing at the age of 8.
Yeah, I mean, I heard the Led Zeppelin record and went, oh yeah, no, I want to do that.
That's
what I kind of had an
do.
interest in guitar, but yeah, heard Song Remains the Same and went, nope, it was a ton of bricks thing. Just, I absolutely want to do that.
I kind of had the same thing with Led Zeppelin as well. It was the same type of thing where I was like, oh yeah, I get that. I get it now. Well, I didn't get that, but I get it.
It's interesting. There's these 3 or 4 drummers in that period where you ask anybody and you'll get, well, if they're a little bit older, then it was Ringo Starr.
Mm-hmm.
And then for, a little bit after that, you get Bonham or you get Ian Pace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's always that I mean, I like Deep Purple too, but I'm not a Deep Purple fan. I didn't dive into that, but there's always those guys. No, Ian Pace, man. I saw Ian Pace is, well, did you like Led Zeppelin? Oh, I mean, I heard some of the songs. Or the other way around. It's like, oh,
yeah, right.
I know every Led Zeppelin song like the back of my hand, but well, do you listen to Deep Purple? Yeah, I've heard a couple songs. I mean, I know how. My woman from Tokyo.
And dude, come on, Ian Pace's hands are just, oh my God.
He's great. Yeah, ridiculous.
Phenomenal. So anyways, so Song Remains the Same, Led Zeppelin, and so is that was the first thing you did? Is that where you jumped in, or did you have lessons? How'd you start?
I hit anything I could hit for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
And then my family went to a wedding. And they had a live band. And I wish to this day I knew who this guy was. I don't know who the drummer was. But he saw me to the side of the band air drumming. Every song I was just imitating what he was doing. And the reality was it's the first time I'd seen somebody sitting at a drum kit.
Mm.
I hadn't actually really consciously seen a drum set up to that point. I'm sure they were on TV at some point. I just didn't think about them.
Right.
But I'm sitting here going, so that's a drum. Okay, now I'm seeing how all these sounds are made. This is cool. So I'm imitating what he's doing. And he came over on a break and said, hey, looks like you play the drums. And I said, yes. Being the arrogant, cocky bastard that I am.
Not a whole lot's changed. Sorry.
Yes, I am. I was all of 9.
Yeah.
And, which didn't help either. And he said, well, man, you got to sit in with the band. Sure.
Oh, right on.
So I sat in with the band and tried to play 2 songs. And that's when the family kind of went, wait a minute, hold on. We need to pursue this. So we'd won this case where my family had to sue this fence manufacturing company because they put a thing and cut my neck, and we got a certain amount of money from it. So we went to House of Drums that used to be here in Reseda and bought a set of drums. And from there on.
No kidding. Wow. That's fantastic. That's, I mean, it sucks you.
It means I have parents. My parents are nuts is what they are. I mean, imagine all our parents are nuts.
Well, having a family that
all
that
this
saw that
nonsense.
and supported that is
Yeah.
that's a big deal, because I totally get that. I totally understand that. I remember, getting the my first drum set, and I sat down and played, and my mom goes, "Where did you learn to do that?" And I was like, "Well, that little rubber pad that I'm beating on all the time just
Yeah.
translated onto that." So what was the first songs what did you play with the wedding band? What did you play? Do you remember?
I remember one of them was a Chuck Berry song, and I don't remember what the other one was. They were
Okay.
probably it was probably a Beatles tune, or another, or an Elvis Presley song or something like that. Something with just a simple, something, because
Cool.
I wasn't tall enough to really. I mean, working the bass drum pedal was a task, because I
Yeah.
was 9 and short, so I couldn't really get the hi-hat functioning. So I kind of just did the hi-hat closed and loose, and did whatever I could at 9 years old, having just now seen a hi-hat cymbal for the first time in my life.
And now you're up there
Oh,
playing
man.
the thing.
Oh,
That's
that one
awesome.
does that. Oh, cool. All right, cool. I got, there we go.
That's very cool. And then did you have formal lessons? Did you study? How'd that start?
My first drum teacher for a year was Chuck Flores.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
And Chuck played with, Benny Goodman, and, he was one of the last of the big band,
Yeah.
greats.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
what did
he was great. He started me right away, independence.
Okay.
Ding, ding, da ding, ding, da ding. Quarter notes on the kick, 2 and 4 on the hi-hat. Read the page with the left hand. Great. Now switch. Now, do the same thing with the, ding, ding, da ding with the left hand. Read the page with the right hand. And he cycled me all around that.
Wow. Wow.
That was right out of the
syncopation.
No, I think the first book we had was, God, I don't even remember. It was just a thing he had.
Okay.
And he would just copy it off for me and say, "This is it," or he had copies made already, because back then you had to go make copies.
Right.
But being as he was a
crank,
he was an absolute teacher. I mean, that was basically what he did.
Right.
And he had this practice pad kit that he made. It was pieces of wood that he had put rubber on and then connected them into the shape of a drum kit. And everything was practice pads except the hi-hat. He couldn't figure out how to do that, as a as a practice pad. So we had a real hi-hat, and everything else was pads.
Even the ride cymbal.
Even the ride cymbal.
Oh, okay. Very cool. Very cool. That's awesome.
And for a year, because we lived close to him, he went to the same church as my parents. So as long as I lived there, he was my teacher. Well, when we moved, we went into the middle of the valley, and right around the same time we moved to the valley, a music store opened up not too far from the house called ABK, which is Bob Cascia. Bob Cascia is Big Bang Distribution, which does a head. They do a head drumsticks and a head cases, and then he does all these things. So he had a store, and I studied there with him and a guy named Scott Frankfurt. And same thing, they went, "Great, you understand the gist of it. Now let's get to the detail of it." Scott worked mostly on hand technique, holding the stick correctly, playing the drum correctly, economy of motion type stuff. To be honest, I don't know if he was following, like a Moeller thing or there's all these different, French grip and stuff like that. I don't really know that he ever said to me consciously, "This is what we're doing." He just said he watched my hands and the way I played naturally, and then just helped adapt that technique. So I was already playing a particular way. Instead of saying, "No, you should do this," play this method. If I had a set of drumsticks here, I'll use the 6.
I really love that. I really love that, because it's more natural for the player to what works for them.
Well, the other thing is, let me get actual. I ran into Nick DiVirgilio a little while ago, and he handed me a pair of sticks and said, "I've been using these, man. You should check them out." And they're sitting on my desk. That's probably what they'll say. My hand's small, and it was even smaller at the time, being 10. So part of it isn't just the idea of play, oh, play this way or play this way. I was already comfortably doing what I could to hold the stick.
Mm-hmm.
What he helped me with is creating pivot points and how to actually, we worked on, just again, economy of motion, how to strike the drum as opposed to hitting the drum. It's one thing. Everyone can hit a drum, but he got me in the idea of getting the best sound out of the drum. So when we were on a kit, it was about how to get the drum to sound good. And when we were on practice pads, it was technique and, finger control and, and I mean, not killing myself over a period of time. His whole thing was, if you intend to do this the rest of your life, like anything else, you have to be able to do this the rest of your life. So if the technique is not working for your joints and your structure, then you have to adapt that. So that's what we did. We adapted it. So I stopped getting blisters and stopped getting cracks in my fingers and everything. And his logic was, if you have an overabundance of blisters and whatever else you get in your hands, then your technique is wrong.
Yeah.
Now he may have said that in passing, but for some reason it stuck in my head. As I started actually listening to him and doing what he said, they all went away.
Yeah.
And I haven't had a blister on my hand since 40 years.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of callus here, but that's where the friction is. You can't get around that. But my hands are virtually uncalloused, and I never get blisters. I mean, it doesn't matter how long I play, how long I practice, whatever.
Do you have any problems with your fingers at all or anything like
Never
that?
have.
Yeah, good for you. That's great.
Yeah.
Now I noticed a minute ago, I'm going to geek out here. You were holding. Is your fulcrum point here? Is that how you grip your stick?
Yeah.
Yeah, right there. So
it adjusts depending on how hard I'm playing. I mean, because I'll also play on the back, on the at the butt of the stick. I'll creep up if it's more detailed. If I'm playing quicker notes, more rudimentary type figures, I'll choke up. It's like a baseball bat,
right?
In the same sense that a batter will come up. If I'm trying to hit long ball, okay, I got to get further down. But if I'm not trying to do something more specific, same principle, and that's all just subconscious. I mean, I may think about it. Oh, I've got a piece coming up here. I better choke up. But for the most part, it just, after 40 plus years of doing it, I'm sure we all do it. I'm sure we all do something to that effect.
Yeah. That's I say that a lot to students. There's like, when I'm playing, it's all subconscious. There are what you just said. At times, you'll move the stick around in your hand, or if you find, oh wow, it's way out there on the end of the stick, or something, you got to pull it back in. But it is a very subconscious thing that you do that. Now, in your drumming, the prog rock stuff, how did that come to be? I mean, I know that's a big part of what you're known for with Spock's Beard, and you do everything, but that's kind of, I don't know, a lot of people go, yeah, Jimmy, prog rock guy. How did that start? How do you feel about that?
Well, I listened to it as a kid. I mean, one of the records that hit me the hardest when I was a kid right out of the gate is my brother. I have 5 brothers and 2 sisters. So my brother just above me was my big brother. He was the influence that was constantly feeding me music. And once I started playing, he was constantly going, oh, you got to play this, you got to play that. So Genesis Seconds Out was a big album. Yes Songs was a big album. And then, I mean, once I was a fan of those things, then I went in both directions to discover more of that music. But I also was listening to the Pretenders and Devo and simple stuff like that. Simple in regards to number of notes,
right?
Not remarkably complex, but probably more difficult in application and playing a solid groove. When Jeff Porcaro doesn't play necessarily complicated stuff, but good luck.
Yeah, right.
Right.
So I had listened to those records and was familiar with that kind of stuff as a kid. When I met Nick DiVirgilio, we being singing drummers, we got to know each other as subs. Oh, I need a sub for a gig. Okay, well, call Nick. He's a singing drummer. Great. Okay, I know this guy Nick. Everyone spoke highly of him. So I started calling him to sub for me, and vice versa. He'd call me to sub for him. Some point we met and started having longer, more detailed conversations where we were getting to know each other and like, oh, well, same, not unlike we're doing now. Oh, well, what did you listen to? Oh, well, I listened to this and that kind of stuff. And I had mentioned that I was a big Seconds Out fan. And from that stuck in his brain because he was just starting to work on the first album where he was the singer for Spock's Beard. And I made a joke in passing about, are you going to be a rock star and sing from behind the kit, or are you going to be a big ninny and sing in front of the kit and pull Phil Collins on everybody? Just being a singing drummer, I was making a joke about it. So sometime after that, I got an email from him. He goes, well, it looks like the ninny and me won out. I'm going to sing in front. Would you have any interest in playing, some Spock's Beard stuff and touring with us? So I already had an idea what they were about. He sent me some material to listen to, and I jumped on it and said, sure. So suddenly I'm playing in 7 and 11 and 19 and, all these odd meters and whatnot.
Wow.
You do it a couple of years, and because the prog community is so tight-knit and close, everyone starts to go, oh, he's that guy. Mm-hmm. And then that spreads around in town to where, as opposed to the fact that I'd done a couple of neo soul records right before I went out on the road with Spock's, playing along to drum machine parts and just playing straight, direct time. And now I'm playing really highly complex, absolute progressive rock. What I was known for shifted drastically.
Right.
If I can say what I was known for, I mean, the those that knew me.
Right.
It's not like I was a household name or anything, but the people that I worked for in town, I went from one thing to this other thing, which is fine because that in turn, because Spock's Beard already had an established reputation, it put my name in more, well, I became more aware to more people quickly. So I can complain about the fact that now I get called to mostly do progressive rock stuff, but I'm not complaining because I'm getting called to do work. I like doing work.
All right.
I like playing whatever.
Jimmy, at what age did you start playing professionally?
Bought a drum kit in October of 79, auditioned for a TV show in February of 80, and 2 months later was playing on that show.
Wow.
What was the show?
Real Kids. Remember Real People?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do.
They did 2 episodes of a kids version called Real Kids, in which you'll see one of the very first times you'll see River Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
He actually sang and played guitar with his sister. And we had sort of the Real Kids band, and we did that for 2 episodes. Shortly after that, my dad saw an ad for a play that was running here in the valley. That was like a cabaret, and they said auditions, weekly. Call for to make auditions. So we called and made an audition. Saw the show, thought, oh, this is fun. It's a bunch of young kids basically putting on a show. And the cabaret, it was half of it was a play, and the other half of it was a performance with a play sort of strewn in between the numbers. And it was great. It was all these really talented kids, and I thought, yeah, this would be fun. And it was rehearsed on Saturdays and played on Sundays. Shortly after that, it moved to the Roxy, and for 4.5 years, we played at the Roxy every Sunday.
Wow!
Oh, wow!
And from that, you get Martika. She was on that. Mark Price, who was a regular on Family Ties. Jerry Sherrill was on Kids Incorporated. Stuff like that. It's a bunch of the kids did all kinds of commercials and movie and TV bits, and I did acting at the same time. So
I was just going to say you did some acting too. Talk about
those
that.
chops all kind of going
Yeah.
I did a lot more voiceover work than I did on-screen stuff, but so yeah, I mean, I started right out of the gate, and that play, the beauty of that was every weekend I played everything from a contemporary pop tune to, great theater. I mean, we were doing stuff from Cabaret, we were doing stuff from Oklahoma, we were doing stuff, Barbara Streisand songs,
Yeah.
Diana Ross songs. You know what I mean? So it's like at 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, because I was in the play, plus I was playing all the songs for the singers and the dancers. So I was immediately getting hit with, you have to know how to play this and you have to know how to play that. And right out of the gate.
Were you reading as well?
Yeah.
I did learn to read. That show I wasn't reading because we were just told, here, this is the song we're going to do, so learn the song.
Okay.
There were a few original songs, but I was just given piano charts because I took a couple years of piano, so I can read. Well, I can very basically read piano. I can read chord charts.
Okay.
So I was just given that for structure. But that's talk about a training ground when you're in a play. You have to do the discipline of the play, plus you have to learn all these different styles of music at 12.
Yeah.
So that informed me to later on. I hit
Wow.
my 20s and 30s, and still to this day, what kind of music do I play? Well, I mean, a lot of people know me for the progressive rock stuff, but what kind of music do I play? Who's hiring? What do you need? And it also got me into the mindset of, I like the challenge. I didn't do a lot of big band stuff, but anytime someone would say, hey man, can you fill in on this big band thing? Yes. Can you fill in on this jazz trio thing? I don't do it all the time. I'm not Dean Koba. I'm not going to, Bill Stewart. I'm not going to sit in and have this killer right hand that, and swinging, like crazy. I can play it. I get it. And I understand it. And I'll get you through the gig. But, those guys live it. That's their forte. But I still like to do it to know, just for the challenge of, okay, I get this. I can do it. The more, the better. Obviously, I'll get better at it. But I like to constantly look. Every once in a while, I'll go, someone will ask me if I can do something. I've never done that before. Yes, I'd love to do that. I just don't tell them I've never done this before.
Exactly. I was going to say the first part of the sentence doesn't come out. It's just the yes that comes out, right?
Yeah. Jimmy, tell us about Polo. Were you in that band, the Disneyland band Polo?
I was. That was my band. That play.
Did you have glasses at one point?
I did.
I saw you on TV. I remember seeing you.
That's
with a double bass drum set.
Yeah, absolutely. Before
I
I walked up,
man.
That's rad.
Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
That play, there was a guitar player, and when that play stopped, the guitar player and I started talking about the idea of, well, what are we going to do now? Why don't we try and come up with a band? So we initially worked with a couple of people in the show and created a band, but we realized that those people were not really the vibe we were looking for. So we put out the word and eventually settled on a group of musicians, and had a guy that sort of worked as our functioning manager, started getting us, random gigs at various clubs and whatnot. But he finally hit on a thing and had us over at Knott's Berry Farm. And Knott's Berry Farm was like, yeah, this would be great. So we started playing regularly at Knott's Berry Farm. Well, whenever there was a band at Knott's that kind of made some noise, Stan Freeze would come over and check them out. And then if they were good, he'd pull them out of Knott's Berry Farm and bring them over to Disneyland. So he came over and asked us to start playing at Disney. We did a couple of shows for special events, and then we went on regular rotation. We did that for about 8 months. And of course we met Josh, Stan's son.
Yeah.
And Josh he was all of 13 at the time. He had a little job backstage where he was the shoe shine boy at Disney in the backstage area.
Really?
He had a place. There was a station. I don't say that to be
right.
Like a ridicule thing. That's what he was. It was a sign and it said shoe shine boy. And that's where he worked. And that's what, on weekends he would do that. So when we'd play on the weekends, he would take a break and come over and sit in with us, and he'd play a Huey Lewis tune or something like that. At some point, being a Genesis fan, I'm like, well, this is nuts. Why don't we just have him in the band? Because he was already doing commercials for Simmons. And my thoughts were, instead of him starting another band and being competitive with us, why don't we just, all the music we're doing has, electronic parts and sampled bits and, Simmons sounds and everything like that. I'll play regular drums and he'll play the Simmons drums. And now we're even better. And the band argued and argued and argued until I finally, he sat it enough times and we liked having him around. So it was like, might as well. So he joined the band. So for the last 3.5, 4 years of the band, we had 2 drummers.
So he played a full-on Simmons kit.
Yeah, he had Simmons, and then he switched to Dynacord at some point. But yeah, he had all Simmons drums, and at some point he added a Radio King snare drum.
Cool.
So he had a vintage 20s or 30s Radio King snare drum, and a set of Simmons and cymbals. He always used actual cymbals. And then I had a big white Thomas Superstar kit, and and then I had little pads interspersed around, so you didn't see it, little Dawes pads.
Yeah.
And that's what we did for 3. And we did a couple of we did Star Search. Well, we did Star Search before Josh, but we did a couple of Star Search episodes. We did.
I think that's where I remember seeing you on TV was Star Search.
Oh, the black and gold.
Oh yeah.
I had a Slingerland black gold drum kit.
Ooh,
and
really?
I borrowed a friend's. Well, Bob Casha, he had another kit there. So he loaned me the second bass drum. So we took that to the TV show and then added some rototoms. Back when the whole idea was the more, the 80s, the more the better.
Right. Yeah.
And I even went as far as, I'll match the drum kit. So I had a black and orange, shirt kind of thing. And at that time I did use a headset mic. Whatever.
He had blonde hair and it was a bob cut, man. It was really cool.
Oh, my hair was all kinds of wrong. My hair is still all kinds of wrong.
Hey, man, my hair is all kind of wrong too. We're in the same club, man.
The minute I realized, God, I can just shave my head, it was like, oh, thank God, I don't have to do that anymore.
Oh man, that's great.
Yeah, Polo was, again, I mean, it went from the play to Polo, where we did original music and we did cover stuff for Disney. So it's just, again, it's more of a school, learning different songs and playing different styles. And 1 minute I'm having to cop Bill Gibson from Huey Lewis, and then the next song I'm playing Mel Gaynor and Simple Minds, and then I'm doing Mr. Pat Mastelotto, and it's school. I mean, you have to, and I'm particular about getting into the depths of it and like really learning, not just to be anal about, I want this part to be exactly right. It was more about getting into the head of the drummer and understanding why are they making this choice.
Yes.
What is informing them to do it, and how do they get the drums to sound like that? How do they, I eventually learned about studio tricks and everything like that, but you learn, he's, getting a great rim shot in this section, or, he's turning the stick around and hitting right in the center with the butt, and, cymbals this way and stuff like that. I liked getting into that just because it became vocabulary, and a better understanding of making the drums sound good. So
right, knowing the language, the language,
Jimmy, not just the right of it. It's. I mean, that is the obviously it's why they call them rudiments. That's the rudimentary language,
right?
But it's also understanding the choices for the song.
Correct.
Why there's those key fills that you'd hear in that song or this song, and why did they do that? Because for example, Huey Lewis, the drumming isn't complex, but it's perfect.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's such a great player. And
yeah.
He always knows right when to do that perfect little tom hit that signals the change, and whatever it is, and then there's other drummers that are, more complex and everything that do it their way. Terry Bozzio obviously was one of the kings of complexity, but it was still musical and interesting within the realm of the song. And he knew not to step on the vocal and, get out of the way of the guitar player and, do your thing when it's your time.
Yeah, that's again the vocabulary and listening to the other musicians around you and working as a cohesive whole. Not just, hey, look at me play the drums. It's about seeing the painting, or it's about seeing the forest, not the tree.
Yeah. And I overplayed then. I mean, as a kid, of course, I had, my teenage ego and everything, and I still, I wanted to be noticed and wanted to be seen, but that's the whole point, is these songs informed me to, like, okay, I don't need this song's cool, and it doesn't do that, but I still want to play this song. So, okay, why? Right. That's why, I would dig into the depth of it that way to understand why this song is fun. But even though there's nothing happening in terms of drum fills, but it's still cool playing that, China Girl, David Bowie.
Right.
Yeah, he does great fills, but the fun part is just playing time and locking in with the bass. I'll do that all day.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You were telling a story the other day at the Sabian thing, and I caught a snidbit of it, but it was very interesting. You were talking about you were playing a Toto song, and Jeff Porcaro was sitting behind you. Is that what I heard? And how did that go? Because you mentioned Jeff Porcaro, and we all love Porcaro. So please tell that story.
Well, the nature of Disney is everyone eventually goes to Disney. And that stage that we played at most of the time was the Tomorrowland stage, is sort of in the round.
Yeah, where it comes up out of the ground.
Watch the band from behind. And inevitably, Jeff would take his wife and kids to Disneyland, and he would sit behind and passively intimidate all the drummers. That was not his intention, but he'd just sit back there and watch, because there were great. I mean, Victor Loyo played at Disneyland, with Luis Miguel, and he's a monster. Brian Mahoney, he had the gig there for a long time. Frank Reina. There's a lot of great drummers.
I saw Buddy Rich on that stage, man.
What's that?
I saw Buddy Rich on that stage when I was a kid.
Yeah, I saw Buddy I saw Louis Belson. I saw the last performance of Pearl Bailey.
Wow.
With Louis Belson.
With Louis.
What an experience that was. That's a story. Oh God. I'll tell you guys that sometime. But at some point I remember hearing Jimmy Keegan laying it down. What the hell is talking behind me? And I turn on, it's Jeff Porcaro. I'm just like, oh God. Oh my God. And so he would do every time he'd come, and he was there all the time. He'd come, like every couple of months or something like that, bring his wife and kids. And then the wife and the kids would go off and, go on rides and everything. And he'd just sit there and stand behind and watch the band. And every once in a while he'd come down and chat and hang out with us. And we could never get him to sit in, though.
Really?
He was always like, no, man, that's your thing, man. I don't even. But he'd say, man, I always want to play this stage, man. Well, come on, sit in with us. Come up with us, start the show. And he's like, oh, no, it's okay. It's your thing. Because he had no ego, so it wasn't. He wasn't interested in stepping on your toes or anything. That's your gig, man. Do your gig, man. I don't want to. I know, but we would love you to play. And he was a really cool dude.
Yeah,
that's awesome, man.
I mean, the stories are true. He really was, that guy. He was a really great guy. Obviously one of the greatest drummers to ever play, and but yeah, as a person, he was a really good soul.
That's cool, man. That's nice to hear. Rick, you had a question, bud.
Well, I was going to ask you if you could just tell us a little bit about your work with Santana.
Santana came about. There's a couple of writers I started working with that had this studio, and they're members of the Baha'i faith, which, as Jimmy Seals from Seals and Crofts just passed away. He was a Baha'i, and that they kind of probably brought that to anybody that knows what that is. That's probably the first time they heard that is through Seals and Crofts, if you've even heard of it at all. So a series of friends introduced me to these guys. I started doing sessions for these guys, and one of their buddies through the faith is a guy named Casey Porter, and another guy named J.B. Eckel. J.B. Eckel played guitar for War for many years and toured alongside Santana. He caught wind that Santana was looking to do a new album and was looking for songs, and asked if he could submit some songs. Carlos, knowing that JB is a great songwriter and a great musician, yeah, man, submit whatever you got. JB was very close to a guy named Casey Porter, also a Baha'i. Casey Porter is huge in the Latin market as a songwriter. Ricky Martin, Luis Miguel, Los Tigres del Norte, all over the map. The first time I worked with Casey was for a singer, down in Mexico who I didn't even know at the time. At the end of the session, he's like, "Okay, everyone, thanks. We'll see you next time. Hey, can you stick around? I need a favor if you've got a minute." And he has me do cymbal overdubs, tom fills, and snare drum, hi-hat snare on these 3 songs. And one is in Spanish and 2 of them are in English. And I'm going, "Who is this?" And he's like, "You don't know. She is the Tejano singer that, they're trying to turn her into like the next Madonna. But, well, we'll see how it goes." But they knew I was in the studio and just asked me if I could take care of this for them. So, yeah, if you can do this, cool, thanks. So I did. Turned out to be Selena.
Wow.
Wow.
That's Casey Porter. That's
Wow.
who he casually does a session for,
Huh.
So JB brought Casey Porter on board, and collectively they arranged a couple of covers and wrote 3 songs. And one of the covers was One Fine Morning, and the other one that they wrote was a song called Primavera. So JB always imagined that Mike Porcaro and I would be a good rhythm section. It's hard to not be a good rhythm section with Mike Porcaro. He was like his brother, just friggin' brilliant. And Mike Porcaro was also a Baha'i. So you can see a little circle,
Yeah.
connection here. So yeah, they just had us come down and track these songs. They'd already had a few people in to track them, who I won't mention, but who all of them are. And the sessions were all great, but at no point did they sound like Santana songs. And the decisions that all 3 or 4 of these guys made was to be session guys and just play what was here. This is the bit, play this. Okay. They didn't step out of the box at any point. They didn't ask any questions. Well, they didn't seem to ask any questions. And from the conversation, they seemed to just show up and play the chart and say thank you and collect their fee and go home. So when you listen to the previous versions, because each song is like, oh, that's so-and-so. Oh, that's so-and-so. You can hear who it is.
Yeah.
You know exactly who it is. The time is good. The groove is good. The drums sound fine. But it's not Santana. It's just a well-played demo.
Right.
So the first thing that Mike asked out of the gate is, well, where's the Santana in all of this? And Casey's like, right, that's what I'm talking about. That's okay. Well, in order for any of these songs to work, or for the Carlos to get Carlos's attention, you're going to have to turn these into Santana songs. So we completely gutted all the tunes and started adding a lot more syncopation, a lot more kind of Latin feel, not necessarily deliberate, but, sort of hinting at things, because that was his vibe. That's his, he doesn't always hit you over the head with it. Sometimes it's just sort of the nature of, well, this is the instrumentation. So once we started doing that, we got 2 or 3 songs in, he put a phone call out and had Luis Conte come in.
Wow.
And so that, now you have the glue. And these were the first things that Carlos heard. The first batch of songs that Carlos heard for the Supernatural record.
Man.
And he jumped. The original idea was that we were just doing demos, and that Rodney Holmes, who was his drummer, who's a monster drummer, Rodney would come in and just replace all these parts, and Benny would come in and replace all the parts, and Carlos liked them, so he kept them. So
Wow. That's awesome.
it's really,
Wow.
I didn't meet Carlos until he was on tour for that record. Like the second leg of that tour, it had already like won all the Grammys and, you know, sold a crap ton of records and everything like that. So I didn't meet him until then.
So what tracks on the Supernatural are you on?
Primavera, and then there's a legacy release, a cover called One Fine Morning.
Okay.
Lighthouse song.
Okay.
Which band is it? Canadian band. I have a video of it up that I posted a few months back where I actually sang as well.
I think I saw that. Yeah. Yeah. That's
but
fantastic.
We tracked 5 or 6 tunes.
Mm-hmm.
And
but those two made it.
Wow.
Huh? That's great.
Those two made it.
Cool. Oh, that's so cool.
There's probably about 40 tunes that were tracked for that record.
Oh yeah.
Between us and between the other artists that submitted things.
Yeah.
Because I know the guy that submitted for Smooth submitted like 4 songs.
Wow.
But
Did he
Smooth
really?
was obviously, got everyone's attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great tune, man. That's a fantastic song. And I like that, where's the Santana in all this? And I like what you said too. He doesn't hit you over the head with it. It's just, you hear it. It's the salt and the pepper.
It's the signature. You got to put the signature,
Yeah.
Because even Primavera was one of the few songs on the record that was actually in Spanish. There is an English version of it, from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the last single of the record, and it only released as a single in the Latin markets.
Mm-hmm.
But that's Mike. I mean, Mike completely changing the bass line and the feel of the tune, and me just responding to what he played. Like, oh yeah, okay, I got it. That's
cool.
This is what it should be.
Get on.
I can't speak about Mike enough. I mean, we talk about Jeff the same way, but Mike as a bass player was the same.
Right.
He's just an incredible feel, incredible tone, a great heart and soul. So when you played with him, it was like he fired you up and consistent every time. I was fortunate to play with him a few times, and every time it was just like, God, I want to play with you all the time. His pocket. Whatever you thought the pocket was supposed to be, if it wasn't what he was doing, he's right. It's not that you have that argument. It's you go, oh, there it is. Yep, that's right.
Yeah, that's cool.
Walk in with him and go, oh, that's way better.
That's cool.
Oh God, yeah.
That's awesome.
Jimmy, could we geek out a little bit on gear? I'm just so curious about what Sabian cymbals you play.
Yeah, so I'm a recent Sabian convert. With handful of years here now. I just picked up a couple of new ride cymbals. So I have a 21-inch stage ride, AAX stage ride. Yeah. I have a 20-inch Legacy. That's kind of my main ride.
Mm.
But now I just picked up a 21-inch complex medium ride.
Ooh.
And I picked up...
Wow. Oh, look at that.
I picked up this.
Is that...
the anthology?
Anthology?
22.
A 22 anthology? Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Whoa.
See not sure why they decided to make the lettering so soft, but this thing's kind of magical. It's not for everything, but what it does, it does really, really well. So you can see. I mean, I've hardly even hit it, as I've only had it a few days. So, but this is fantastic.
It looks like it might be a great crash. Like it might have a nice crash on it.
Yeah,
it's probably more conducive to jazz type scenarios. It's got a great hit in that regard. It's not very loud. But I love it. It's got all kinds of possibilities, from crashing it all the way up the shoulder to the bell. It's got a great bell. Crashes, I'm mixed. I have a complex crash. I have a couple of HHX crashes, mostly AAXs. And part of that is initially I grabbed darker, drier cymbals. and then started doing sessions with him and gigs with him. And for the first time in my life, I was having engineers tell me, I can't hear your cymbals. They're decaying too fast. Now, what I heard at the kit sounded great, but the microphones weren't. So we switched to it, and it's just because I was playing such high volume stuff.
Mhm.
Whereas if I was playing lighter fare, more mid volume or club scenario, it would be much better. But we ended up with, I basically just said, what's Todd Zuckerman using? Whatever he's using, just I
do
want
that.
those. So Chris gave me a couple of the explosion crashes, a couple of sizes of those, and they're great. They're
Those
perfect.
are amazing. The AAX
Yeah, those are
explosion,
amazing cymbals.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're so fast.
Yeah, it's like a classic crash cymbal sound. It's a you can't go wrong with it. It's I think all the companies have a cymbal that you would say is sort of like their signature classic sound.
Yeah.
And that and that would be it for me, for Sabian. That's the one that kind of says, yeah, that's
what I use. I use some explosions, and I like the Weckel, the evolutions. I love those.
I have one of those as well.
Those are
I'm
my
not used to
favorite. I love them.
cymbal. I'm not used to a cymbal that thin.
They're
that
very
was one
thin.
of the things that I had to adapt to is suddenly these cymbals had way more give to them.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And were much thinner than my previous brand, which is known for being a lot more rigid.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to change the way I play.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I'm not breaking cymbals.
Yeah, that's the thing, man.
That's the thing.
That's one of the best parts. Oh, hey,
I know they don't break, man. I know.
I've only swapped out a couple of cymbals in 5 years, 6 years I think of it like 5 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the reasons those cymbals broke were really like, oh, okay, I'm gonna pay for this. I had a small China that I just ended up on this gig where I ended up just kind of killing it.
Yeah, I've had one cymbal break since, and I've been with them since I got on 2015. I think it was 2015 when I got on, and I've had one cymbal break. And that's it. They don't break, man. They sound amazing. They sound great. Well, we're coming towards the end of the show, and Jimmy, this is the question that we ask everybody. I don't know how many of the episodes that you've watched, but we ask everybody this question. It's the most important question of the day, so that's why we save it to last. It's very serious. And every drummer that comes on deck, we have to ask this question. So I see you're sitting down, but you're ready, right? You're prepared for this? Where in your neighborhood do you get the best pizza?
Oh, Larocco's.
There's
2 Larocco's within driving distance of me. It's the same guy, opened them both. He's actually a New York transplant.
Oh, there you go, Rick. There you go.
There it is. Thank you.
There it is. Yeah.
It's probably as close to proper New York pizza as you're going to get. There's like 1 or 2 places in LA, but that's it. There really isn't a whole lot of choices for proper New York pizza in LA Orange County.
Okay.
And Larocco's is pretty spot
on. And that's in LA,
like
LA itself? In LA itself? Or did you say Reseda? Or you know?
No. One of them is very close to the LAX.
Okay.
It's on Sepulveda, just north of LAX.
Okay.
And the other one is in Culver City.
Okay.
Downtown Culver City.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. We asked that question of everybody because it started as a joke because we had a bunch of drummers on from New York. Our very first show, we asked it, and so it's stuck. So, but I owe you pizza because you helped me out when I very first got my Logic set up, and
right.
I'm forever grateful. And I told you I'd buy you pizza, and then COVID hit, and I haven't bought you pizza. So I got to go up to Sabian and get some cymbals. So I will buy you pizza, and so there is very self-serving. Yeah, it was very self-serving. But we'll meet up there and we'll have pizza. How about that? You want to do it?
I'm down. Say the word. Let me know when.
Okay, I'll set up something with Chris. I got to go up and get some cymbals, and then I'll set it up, and you and I will go have pizza.
Looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's it for us here on Drummers Education Connection. We want to thank you so much. Jimmy, thank you for being on. You're just, just a great guy. And I always love hearing your stories and everything. Every time we have a chance to our paths cross and we chat, it's just always such a pleasure. So thank you so much for coming on the show. Everybody, thank you for watching. We don't have anybody booked for next week, but I'm reaching out to our next guest. I'm not going to say his name yet. Reach out later this afternoon, see if he'll be on. And in the meantime, check out Jimmy's stuff. He's amazing. Anything you want to plug real quick before we hang up? You got anything going on you want to plug?
Pattern Seeking Animals album is already out. It's been out for a couple months, but it's our third album. I played on a track by my buddy Chuck Wright. I played and I mixed the track. That's just been released here recently. And other than that, I'm forever trying to do a solo album that I don't know what year I'm on now, but I'll get it eventually.
Hey, 20 years in the making, it's going to be great. Whatever it is.
And shout out to Jeremy Steinkohler. We missed you this week, brother.
Yeah, we missed you, Jeremy. Where the heck are you, man? What are you doing today? So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. We will see you next week on Drummers Education Connection. Everybody have a great day. Thanks a lot for watching.
Thanks, Jimmy.